Oil. It's called black gold for a reason. But the wars fought over it, they've cost far more than gold. They've cost blood, millions of lives, entire nations destabilized, cultures fractured. And if you think it's about democracy or weapons of mass destruction, think again. This is about control. Control of oil, control of money, and control of you. In 1974, the United States made a deal with Saudi Arabia that changed everything. Every barrel of oil sold worldwide would be priced in US dollars. In return, Saudi Arabia would buy American weapons and invest their oil profits back into US Treasury bonds. Other OPEC nations followed. This created the petrodollar system, a global financial structure that props up the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Fast forward to the 2000s. Venezuela's Hugo Chavez starts selling oil in currencies other than the dollar. He nationalizes oil resources, cutting out U.S. corporations. The response? Sanctions, regime change efforts, economic warfare. By 2019, Venezuela's economy is in ruins, and the U.S. backs a rival government. Iran tried the same thing. After the 1979 revolution, Iran started moving away from the dollar. The result? Decades of sanctions, isolation, and now direct military threats. In 2026, the U.S. is ramping up pressure once again. See the pattern? Any nation that tries to break free from the petrodollar system faces the same fate: sanctions, destabilization, or outright war. Libya's Muammar Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African currency to trade oil, bypassing the dollar entirely. Within months, NATO intervened. Gaddafi was dead by October 2011, and Libya's oil went back into Western hands. For over 40 years, Iranians have lived under crippling sanctions. Families can't access medicine, students can't afford education. An entire generation has grown up knowing only economic warfare, not because of what Iran did, but because of what it refused to do: submit to dollar dominance. Meanwhile, Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia and the UAE thrive. Why? Because they play along. They price oil in dollars, invest in U.S. assets, and maintain close military ties with the West. But this prosperity comes at a cost: political repression, restricted freedoms, and a culture shaped by foreign interests. Iraq's oil wealth was supposed to rebuild the nation after 2003. Instead, it fueled corruption and sectarian violence, leaving millions in poverty. Lebanon, once a regional hub, has been devastated by sanctions targeting Hezbollah. But the real victims are ordinary Lebanese families facing economic collapse. In Venezuela, U.S. sanctions have caused a humanitarian crisis. Inflation skyrocketed, food and medicine became scarce, millions fled the country. Across Latin America, nations that challenge U.S. economic dominance face similar fates. The message is clear: comply or collapse. Here's what they don't tell you. These wars don't just affect people over there. Black and brown communities in the U.S. and around the world are directly impacted. Military spending drains resources from education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Young black men and women are recruited to fight these wars, often coming home with PTSD, injuries, or not at all. And the diaspora? Families torn apart by sanctions, immigration restrictions, and destabilized homelands. Muslim-majority nations have borne the brunt of these conflicts. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia. The list goes on. Entire generations have grown up in war zones. Islamophobia has spiked globally, fueled by propaganda that paints these conflicts as clashes of civilizations rather than resource grabs. Africa sits on vast oil reserves, rare minerals, and untapped resources. Yet, the continent remains exploited, not empowered. When African leaders try to reclaim control, like Gaddafi did, they're removed. Western corporations extract wealth while African communities see little benefit. The cycle of poverty and dependence continues. Numbers can't capture the trauma. The father who can't afford insulin for his child because of sanctions. The student whose university was bombed. The refugee family crossing the Mediterranean, fleeing a war they didn't start. These aren't collateral damage. They're lives. And every one of them matters. Administrations change, but the policy doesn't. Trump increased sanctions on Iran and Venezuela. Biden maintained them. Both parties agree on one thing: protecting dollar dominance at all costs. And the people? They're left to pick up the pieces. So, what do we do with this knowledge? First, we stop falling for the propaganda. These wars aren't about freedom or democracy, they're about control. Second, we demand accountability. Our tax dollars fund these conflicts. We have a right to question them. And third, we build solidarity. Whether you're in Detroit, Caracas, Tehran, or Johannesburg, the struggle is connected because at the end of the day, it's not about oil, it's about power and who gets to wield it. The question is, are we going to let them keep writing the story, or are we going to write our own?